Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oh So Curious Show Movie of the Week. Today, we will be talking a lot about Deadpool and Wolverine, the newest installment in partly the MCU, but also partly the Fox universe, kind of. But new edition, we're going to be talking about not just the film itself. Don't worry, no spoilers, but we will also be talking about box office and critical scores. And here to give us our review is Bridget. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, John. How are you?
Doing fine. I'm really interested with what you have to say about Deadpool and Wolverine, though.
Oh yeah, yeah. Literally hot off the press. I just got out of the theater and walked here, and I'm ready to give my review. But I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm like, how do I feel about this film? Because I feel like I still have a lot of mixed feelings. Um, I don't know. It's something that watching it was obviously very funny. So quite a few times I found myself laughing. Um, but then at the same time, I do feel like looking back at the whole thing, it did leave a lot to be desired, especially as far as the plot and the way that the whole story kind of wrapped up, especially towards the end, felt a little forced. And, they kind of spend a lot of time building up the hope and the morale towards the end, just for at the end to feel like, oh, like that was all kind of, I don't know, a little bit for nothing for some of them. And I don't know. I mean, it did have a lot of cameos, especially from previous X-Men, and that's kind of the whole gist of this. Obviously, with Wolverine in it, it's really centered on like X-Men, Wolverine. So I feel like if you are
Right.
a big fan of those movies, you would really enjoy this for sure. You'd get probably every single little joke thrown out there that maybe even I had missed myself, because I won't lie, I'm not as well versed on those movies, but I do think
Right,
that
of
super
course.
fans will like this. I think that's who this is really targeted to, is people who really like those movies. And then of course it's got, a lot of Avengers jokes in there as well. So I think if you can call yourself a big Marvel fan, then you would really be pleased with this movie, just because of the humor that you would recognize. And
That's great.
um, yeah, I do think it does
Um,
serve a purpose, and it's funny, but
well, I mean, if that's the case, then,
yeah,
but with obviously no spoilers, please, no spoilers. But in
of course.
regards to like all the alleged, characters in the movie, where like the surprise is worth it. I know you're not as well versed as some of the super fans out there,
Of
but were
course.
you interested in seeing any of the things that you like to see in this or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think some of the like reveals were obviously well known enough to be like, oh my gosh, it's so funny that they got them in this movie to do that, to be in that little part.
Right.
So it just, it really shows the star power now that Deadpool has, now that this is
Oh,
their
of
third
course.
film. So it's, it's, you can see it. They've got a huge budget, and it is an entertaining film. I'm not gonna lie, and I think like if you did enjoy the first two and you want to see
Hmm.
it, but you're like kind of on the fence, I would watch it. But at the same time, I do feel like it is different than the first two. I really liked the
Yeah.
first two
Right.
personally. I
Of
thought those
course.
were really funny, and I think it's kind of like third movie syndrome. I to
Right.
compare it to
Threequel
one of my
syndrome.
favorite Yeah, to compare it to one of my
It's not
favorites.
everything can be Return of the King, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. But like
so,
Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 are great. Shrek 3 tanked, I think. So,
right.
it's just kind
So
of like
with,
they can't, yeah,
yeah. So with all I've
they
heard
can't all
about
be
the
good.
movie, I kind of ran through the plot a little bit, and I was kind of like curious about like how was it like paced, because it kind of seemed like, I know I haven't seen the movie and I don't plan on ever seeing it, but it just seemed like kind of choppy. Like it didn't seem very, like there was not like a lot of
It
story
it
there.
was. I think this one was a particularly choppy film, which I think is kind of lends to the style of the Deadpool movies, maybe a little bit. But I think on this particular film, that they really went like full board, like let's do this funny gag, and oh my god, wouldn't that be funny? And so that's what it kind of feels like. Is it's just like all this setup for the joke. Um,
Mhm.
And so it does feel like you're kind of like, oh, where are we now? Oh, now they're in a random place. Now they're in a different random place. And I guess that's just you kind of have to let go of that
Right.
expectation in a way. He's a guy that breaks the fourth wall. So in this movie, it does kind of feel like anything goes. And you just kind of have to be on board for it. You have to yes and this movie because it
Of
feels
course. So I know I know it's a little bit, again, I know you can't talk about it too much, but now with obviously Hugh Jackman being in this, coming back after, the swan song of Logan,
Mhm.
would you want to see Hugh Jackman again after this? Obviously we can't like talk about it like specifics, but would you
Right,
want to see him again? Like regardless of what happens in the movie, like obviously the multiverse exists. So, would you
right.
wanna see him again, or do you think this would be like "Okay, let's leave Hugh Jackman be at this point?"
No, I mean, I actually really enjoyed what he brought to this film, him just being him. And I was a little not sure how it was going to be because I know he's getting a bit older, but still by the end, I mean, I guess they can do anything with movie magic, but um, not a spoiler, but kind of a spoiler. But he's like really hot at the end, and even me, I was like, I feel so weird about this, but he's like really a really hot old guy to me right
I
now. Like
mean,
that's
yeah,
weird. But no, I
he's
mean, of
aged
course,
like fine
I
wine, not gonna lie.
he does. Like, I'm right. One of my friends who she also used to like tell me that she had a guilty pleasure kind of crush on the Wolverine, and I never got it, but now I do.
Now you get it, now
um,
totally.
yeah, and of course I love him because he's from Western Australia. It's where my family is from, so represent.
Very
I
nice, of
always
course.
appreciate that. Yeah, so I
I
I
mean, I'm not gonna deny it, I'm never gonna deny it. I love me some huge jacked man.
I
Um
know. Whew, and them abs. Wow.
Yeah, like, not gonna lie, I know a lot of people were upset that he was so covered, but I like the reasoning because I know they do have, I believe they CGI'd his arms in the movie because, but it was like like, normally I don't agree with that, but I remember reading
Uh-huh.
somewhere they did that because Hugh Jackman has had, like, skin cancer, and so they didn't want him exposure to the sun a lot, so they CGI'd his arm so that he wouldn't be as exposed. So I thought that was like a nice thing to do for him to accommodate
Yeah,
that. So that was
definitely.
really, really, really nice. Yes, huge
Yeah,
jacked man, as
he is.
honest
He
trailers
really
would
is.
say. I just saw that now, but yeah. So with this being a multiverse movie, do they with the traveling between worlds do they enlist the help of Doctor Strange, or again, going as far as you can say, right?
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away. I will say that I can't say that he's not in it in some parts.
Right.
That
Right.
premise doesn't come up. But it is funny. Yeah, I even it's funny. They also kind of and of course in this movie they can do that. They can be so self-aware about a bunch of different things, but that was one
Right.
part that I liked, talking about the multiverse and kind of it's like, oh, is this like a it's almost seems a little bit like a parody on all the multiverse movies we've had,
Mhm.
in a way. So it is funny for that. I think even for anyone who's like, even if you are like sick of superhero movies, you'd like this because it's poking
Right.
fun
It
at it.
makes fun of them all. And it's
Right.
not
Yeah.
as, it's not as cynical and depressing and, written for
Yeah.
13-year-old boys like The Boys is. So, so
Yeah.
this hopefully treats its audience like adults
Well,
rather than children. But, it's
I
still
mean,
more tongue in cheek. Yeah.
it's still there were some parts where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I literally feel like a 14-year-old boy wrote this part." It's
Oh,
because
okay. Never
it's
mind. Never
guy
mind then.
humor. I mean, there's just some of that. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, for me at least, some of it was kind of graphic too. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm okay with blood, but like sometimes you're like, "Oh God," like I can imagine what that feels like, and it's just a little too much
A little
for
too much
me
for you.
to. I
Yeah.
actually
No,
found
that's
myself having
understandable.
to like not watch it, but I guess I can imagine some. dudes probably think it's freaking
Oh
hilarious.
yeah, this is so
So,
cool,
you
man.
know,
It's something I'm touching upon in my review of Kite Man later, but with
yeah.
the tongue-in-cheek nature of the movie, although speaking of tongue with the dog pool,
Oh my
but with
gosh.
that, with like
Yeah.
the whole meta humor, making fun of everything, do all the jokes land, or just or some of them were like, oh no, that was not good.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's why I think you watch a movie like this and you do feel kind of conflicted because you're like, I laughed, but then I also like I rolled. So like, how do I feel? I mean, there's just some parts where you can tell they're really like trying to make that part funny, or they're like having a scene and there's like this music that doesn't match, and it's supposed to, what they're trying to do, and it's like, oh, that was probably
Mhm.
funny like 10 years ago, but things just change
Yeah,
so fast, and it's with TikTok and stuff. I feel like our humor threshold maybe is like changed. I don't, at least for me, I don't know,
yeah.
but
I
so that
feel like that
you could
fits
feel
the
it. There's
character though a little bit, like a little bit,
yeah,
like because Deadpool, I feel like lives in like 10, 20 year old like Kernvin's like in the first movie where he's like, "Oh my god, Ripley from Alien 3." And Negasonic Teenage Warhead is like, "Fuck, you're old." And so, and so yeah, I could see like them like that kind of working for the character, but at the same time still being kind of cringy. So I could
yeah,
see it working both ways.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, and that's the thing. It's like you can't critique him too much. It's hard. It's hard to have a 2-hour feature long movie that's just like funny the whole time. That's really
Oh
hard for
yeah, that's
anybody to do. So
impossible.
I think to expect it to be like, wow, you weren't like perfect. I mean, he lands for me. There was somewhere, even in the
Right.
beginning, he's dancing, and I don't want to spoil that too much either, but I thought the intro was really funny. What he's just doing, and it's like, it's just
When
it's
he's
good
being
humor. And if
himself,
it
yeah.
doesn't land, you can forgive it because another joke's coming. Um, yeah, yeah.
That'll
I
be
think
funnier maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think towards the end, that's too what I felt. I felt like the very first half was just like joke, 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 joke. And then actually, as we move on, it did start to feel
mhm.
like, oh, there is like a little heart to heart moment here.
Yeah,
And
good
then you
emotional
could
tugging
feel
at
it.
your heartstrings. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can
So
definitely
it
see
almost
that.
feels like a part one and a part two in a movie.
Mhm. So was the greatest
Um,
showman song
I
used well, or
wish I don't recall hearing it, but gosh, what if it? I don't know if that was just like a speculation, but that would have been really
it
funny.
was released on the track list, I believe, but maybe maybe it was in the credits or something as
Like
like a joke and you just kind of missed
the
it.
Million Dreams one, or maybe it was a different one.
Maybe it
Maybe
was
I
that
missed that.
one. I don't
'Cause I
know.
know that one.
I
I
don't
feel
know
like I
what
would have.
specifically one they used, but yeah, it looks like the audience score is killing it. Not gonna lie, that's not really
Yeah.
so much surprising right here. Like, yeah, the critic score
I'm
is
like, it's
not
been
like
out for a
low,
day.
but it's like it's over 500. But
Yeah,
even then, this is Thursday is like the preview day, so
right. What
it's
time?
not a lot. I also traversed Letterbox. That's what I like to use for my. And some people were like, most people were like, "Yeah, this is good." Um, but some people were like, "This is really fucking mediocre. This is really bad." One of my favorite reviews was a 1-star review, and all the review said was "bye bye bye," and so I thought that was kind of
Yes,
funny.
that is
But
funny.
some
Actually,
people
that's
are
a
like, "Oh
funny
yeah, this
review.
is really great." So from the most I gather from this, from what you've said, is that at the very least, Deadpool fans will probably like the movie. It'll probably be their least favorite film, but they'll enjoy the
Yes,
references. They'll enjoy Ryan Reynolds and Logan's chemistry and
exactly.
all of that.
And yeah, and I think anyone who's maybe even because for me, like, I feel like I was really young when Fantastic Four came out. Like, I just remember the Happy Meal toys and not much else. So I never really watched that. But I feel like maybe if you maybe you're an older generation, or you've seen all those movies, I do think you will like this. And if you like superhero movies, of course. But I think if you're just like a general public person who's like, I don't know, should I see this? it just I feel like you could miss this if you wanted to. It's not like, oh my god, you have to see it. You're missing out on anything because
Ooh,
compared to the
that's a
first
good.
two, it just doesn't hit the same.
Yeah, worthy. That's what I've been hearing. It was like essentially what No Way Home was to the previous
Uh,
Spider-Man. It is for the Fox X-Men.
yeah,
That's what I've heard. So,
yeah, with a tribute like this, it would make sense.
mhm, yeah. And so what we have here is the box office projections, which keep going up. Like I feel like less than a month ago, it was like I don't know, like 100 million, but now it's like going up. This is gonna set
Yeah.
the 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 theater everything on fire. Like it's gonna be just the most insane thing. Now, apparently, the box office projections of the weekend, but the previews are 35 to 40 million, which is a lot. I mean, I know comic book movies have kind of been stagnated a little bit, but with Inside Out 2 now being technically the top grossing animated film of all time, um if
Oh
we
my
don't
god,
count the
yeah.
Lion King, that is. But that's technically top grossing. Now I feel like we're kind of getting into the latter half of the year, more,
Mhm.
more and more people going to theater, and this was definitely, I think, even like when this was announced, they're like, oh yeah, this is going to light the box office on fire. And now the projections are
Right.
$360 million for the weekend, which would not only break box office records for an R-rated movie, but box office records for comic book movies, or like even ever. Now,
Mhm.
now that's just a projection, so who knows? I don't think it'll reach that far, but I do think it will probably get to I could see it being like 220, 230. Like it
Mhm.
would like it would really it's going to be high. Like if we're going just by 40 million in previews, then it's going to be high. I don't know if it'll break 350, but I think it's definitely going to get
Yeah.
there because this movie, I mean, we have a lot of I mean, Hugh Jackman has been the only live action Wolverine we've ever gotten ever. So
Right.
like, and people remember him for so long, but the thing is, so many generations remember him. Yeah, you have the generation that
Mhm.
remembers him from, the original trilogy of X-Men movies. Then you have the ones that remember him from the later stuff like X-Men Origins, the Wolverine, Logan, his, Days of Future Past. So you have like I feel like
Mhm.
two different generations like kind of remembering him. And then on top of that,
Yeah.
you have more of the Gen Z generation remembering Deadpool, and so them getting hooked on Hugh Jackman. So you're getting
You're
so
right.
many
It's
different
a blend.
demographics. It's like you're
Yeah.
getting so many, you're getting Deadpool fans, you're getting Fox X-Men fans, you're getting Hugh Jackman fans, you're getting Wolverine you're
That's
getting
absolutely
so
right.
many fans with this, and that's just gonna print money. That's just gonna automatically print money.
It's the
So
equate. You're right, because the more people you have, and the more whatever is drawing the people in, that you're right.
mhm.
And even that's representative in the preview today. I saw little kids. I saw people who were like much older
Little
than
kids.
me.
Ooh, this is an R-rated movie. That might be a little
I
bit of a
know,
problem, but hopefully they're not too
I know, but
scarred. But
I saw teens and grandparents and tons of, yeah. I was like, wow,
yeah,
it just feels like everyone shut up. So yeah, it's
yeah,
I think that is
really.
pretty spot on. And that makes me think too. You saw, now that we're in the superhero world, also talking about Kite Man. Kite
Yes.
Man, hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we are gonna get into that soon enough.
Okay.
But yes, this has been Movie of the Week. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more. And
Yep.
we will be going forward to talking about what my thoughts on the third episode of Kite Man was. So thanks for watching, and
Sounds
we'll
good.
see you there soon.
Yeah.
And with that, we make a proper tonal
So
shift.
sorry. Sorry if I was supposed to say it
Make
like
a
that.
make a proper, it's okay. It's a proper tonal shift. It's okay. We're
I
learning
didn't
here. It's
realize
fine.
we were splitting. Sorry.
But anyway, so I am here to talk about the third episode of Kite Man Hell Yeah. I've talked about the show up, you know, up until like since the trailer dropped like months back. this was a character that I've loved to see in the Harley Quinn show, and I hated what they did with the character in season 2 that I pretty much dropped off the show. But now they're bringing him back for a spinoff. I feel like this is one giant apology for Kite Man, and this and I think this is a good apology because I think they realized they screwed up with the relationship between him and Poison Ivy in the show. They were supposed to get married. A lot of them, there was a lot of great development between them as characters, but they kind of throw that out the window for the sake of the more popular relationship between Harley and Poison Ivy. But yeah, so this is a good apology, and as I said before, very generally, the first 2 episodes were great. I think the 3rd episode is also really great. So the 3rd episode deals with Kite Man and Golden Glider, a new bar, like a themed restaurant, opens up next to them called Villigans, which is definitely like a really like a very like a cheesy themed restaurant. Like anybody who knows Planet Krypton from the comics, like that kind of like everyone's dressed in like super villain outfits, like you get your
Yeah, yeah.
food delivered by like the Riddler and Scarecrow and all that stuff.
Right.
So essentially that's the debacle this week. And so we have like all these like kind of like characters showing up like in the background of like, oh, they're referencing this character, they're referencing this character. So essentially the big plot is Kite Man has to get rid of Villigans. Yes, that is a great mug and I want it badly. Kiss my apocalypse. But
That's funny.
unfortunately Darkseid does not appear in this episode, but yeah, there's a lot of plenty of funny moments. And the A plot is Villigans is the Kite Man and Golden Glider trying to get rid of Villigans, and then the B plot is the relationship between Kite Man and Golden Glider. Kite Man sees from this like relationship milestone thing that Golden Glider has, like a spreadsheet that they're like, oh, she expected me to like ask her to move in with her, or she move in with me, and so now he's freaking out. So you have like the relationship between them while they're also dealing with this, and it's just so funny. But I liked the stuff with like the relationship because it just shows this is like the heart of the show. That's what I think they really wanted to make sure, like, to give Kite Man a proper relationship after they screwed it up with the Harley Quinn show. Is like these are like they have such great Kite Man and Golden Glider have such great chemistry with one another. And even though when there's all this death, destruction, tomfoolery, ridiculous shock humor, that the wholesomeness between them is like so perfect, and you just love to see it. So it's not really connecting that much to Harley Quinn. It's just kind of, she was in the first episode, but they're kind of just doing their own thing now, and the better for it. And yeah,
and you feel like
I
that you feel like that is kind of satisfying that itch that wasn't scratched in the first one. Are you glad that this whole series then is kind of going that way?
I'm so stoked. I hope this gets a second season. I hope that this continues on, because it's like I think I referenced this, I think, in the last review I did of the show. Who would have thought that Kite Man gets his own series? And the thing is, I know they're in on the joke that like Kite Man is like a supervillain that you don't really take seriously, but at the same time, he's so likable and sympathetic. And Matt Oberg, who voices him, is like, he sounds like a douchey frat bro, but it's like even then you can't help but love him. Like he is just so endlessly charismatic and likable, and I think that's where this show really shines most definitely.
Which is what you need, really, to, I think that's one of the, you don't think about it, but it is a really important element to keep people coming back. And it's just when they've got the charisma, it draws you in.
Yeah, most definitely. And Golden Glider, I don't know who voices her, I apologize, but she's also does a really good job. Like, and then you have like Jonathan Banks is in it. He plays Noonan. And then you have all these like all other really funny characters. I think you have Alan Tudyk as Bane, and Bane is so funny because it's like he essentially, like, his big thing with his character is they're making fun of Tom Hardy's voice from Dark
Bane,
Knight
yeah,
Rises. Like,
yeah.
oh, you could barely understand. He's like, oh, and like, I believe that's Alan. I think because Alan Tudyk also voiced Clayface and Joker in Harley Quinn, but I think he also still voices Bane. But yeah, he's just like, all these characters are just so like endlessly funny, and they're so likable. And even though it's like about like villains that, okay, so Stephanie Shu is who voices Golden Glider. She famously was nominated for an Academy Award for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Um she played the daughter and main villain of that movie. So she's really great. But yeah, all these characters are just so great. And Alan Tudyk does not voice Bane. That was my apologies. I think he voiced him in Harley Quinn, but they got someone else to voice him. I think that's what happened. But essentially, Kite Man is still running strong. He's still, trying to get this, little dive bar to survive. And definitely the highlight of the episode was, this is the type of show it is. So one of the things that like Villigans is like trying to like destroy Noonan's, like that was like the whole thing of the episode, spoiler alert, but like it's a 20-minute TV show, it's fine.
Right.
But they offer them like spa stuff, so they're like, okay, so Golden Glider and the Malice, who's another big character, she's the one in purple right there, sure, she's the daughter of Darkseid, and then so they're trying to kill them because they're like, we want to wipe Noonan's off the map. So Golden Glider rips her towel off, and she starts murdering people butt naked and covering her naughty bits in blood. That's the type of show this is. Like, that's like the vibe you get. And it was like this, and it's a really well animated sequence. It was very fun, very crazy. But yeah, that's the
The whole
type of
gist.
show this
Yeah.
is like. And if you like that, if you kind of like, it's a very silly comedy, so if you like that, please watch the show, support it. It's on Max. Highly recommend it. But yeah,
Yeah.
so what
You convinced me to check it out.
I would say, if I know you don't like violence, I know you said that, but like, let's
I think if it's animated, it's better. I can.
okay,
It's not.
so yeah, I
It's
would
not too
say
close to
it's
home.
okay, that's good. But yeah, anyway, so the last thing before we, head out, somebody had a question for us on the last episode yesterday with the Penguin, not really the Penguin related, but since they mentioned me, I was like, okay, let me give them what they want. What do I think of Brainiac being teased in for Superman? Now, I've said this before. I'm excited for the movie, and I love bald representation with Lex Luthor, don't get me wrong. But we've seen a little bit too much of Lex Luthor, and I didn't hear anything of Brainiac getting teased as the villain of the movie or like appear in the movie. But if he does appear, like if he's like really the main threat of the movie, I'd love to see that, because Brainiac is a villain we haven't seen yet. So we haven't seen on live action. He was supposed to be in Superman 3, but then they kiboshed that, and he was supposed to be in the Superman Returns sequel. That never happened. So yeah, they keep teasing him, and even though we keep getting him in video games like Injustice 2, and unfortunately Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, we keep not getting him just yet. So yeah, I think this is just, James Gunn posting a comic. I don't think it means anything, but if it does anything, I would love to see Brainiac, like maybe in a sequel. I know James Gunn is kind of playing it safe a little bit, which I don't totally love, but I think that's fine. If Brainiac does appear in the movie, great. If he doesn't, I think it'll be a good enough movie that that James Gunn actually knows this character and will be getting something actually like something that's more in line with Superman, because Superman is going through a renaissance right now. So yeah, I think that'll be pretty great. But yeah, that's kind of it for everything. But I would recommend Kite Man. I still recommend Kite Man, but Deadpool and Wolverine is up to you because you've seen it and I have not.
Yes, I think, again, as I will say, it really depends on who you are. And I think if you're a big super fan, go. If you've watched X-Men and Wolverine and you liked those, I think you will appreciate this humor a lot. And if you are just like, I know I like the first two and I'm like not sure if I should watch this. If you're on the fence, I would say just go see it. I still think you'll have a good laugh. But then if you're
Right.
like I don't know, I feel like it's obviously humor too that's not for everybody. So
Hmm.
I feel like at this point, if you know, you know. Then again, I can't recommend that it's the plot you're going for. It's really just for like just the shits and giggles, you know.
Exactly. So, but yeah, that's about all we have for you today. Um, but so Deadpool and Wolverine, if you're a big fan, go see it. Kite Man, it's a weird, quirky show. Might not be for everybody, but if you want a good laugh and waste 20 minutes of your day, then I would recommend watching it. Plus, if you want to see naked women killing people with ice skates, then that's definitely up your alley. But that's it for the show
Yeah.
today. Please leave any comments below. We might be, you might be featured on another DCU Daily in the future. We love seeing your fan comments. So, but all as well as the
Absolutely.
fact, like and subscribe for anything future that you want to see, and have those notifications on so you know when we go live. But that is it for today. And Bridget, thank you for giving us your thoughts on
Yeah.
a non-spoiler review of Deadpool and Wolverine. And hope you
Just see it.
have great rest of your night, everyone.
Of course. Yeah. Good night, everybody.